Hey, so we're headed into round 2 now. I'm just gonna quickly check what this guy's playing. It was a 30-minute round 1, which is probably the best thing about Modern. The rounds are just lightning quick, and I don't think it lacks decisions really. So we're up against blue poison, and like at this point, I don't recognize the guy at all. I assume that he just net decked from the PT, so I'm not going to really bother looking through all of his games for some mind-blowing tech. It's not like there's much he can do against my deck anyway. I mean, he can hit me for 10 poison, but it's not like there's any breakthrough card that's gonna completely destroy me that he could board in or have main deck or etc. I guess if he's just gonna be hanging out doing nothing, we might as well watch. Let's watch game 2. I mean, it's also the Steam Vents mirror, so none of the board cards are really going to be relevant. Yeah, and he just gets smashed. Right? I'm pretty sure he gets smashed. This matchup is extremely difficult for an effect, and Twin played it pretty much how I think Twin should play it, which is just hit him with Pestermites. I don't really think you need to have the combo in your deck after boarding. Twin just has a lot of counter spells, and Pestermite's a good enough clock. I guess there's very, very little reason not to grab an untapped fetch, so look. Oh, I do that sometimes when I'm talking. It's actually plausible that waiting until turn 2 to Thoughtseize was correct. But yeah, sorry about that. Another issue for me is that this screen size is a lot different from what I usually play at, the resolution. So I sort of have difficulty seeing what's going on sometimes when I'm making videos. I don't think Thoughtseizing first makes much sense. So it's a solid hand, but it's not really going anywhere too quick. I guess I'll just take the agent. That's the hardest thing for him to find, is the creature part of the combo. And it's also the easiest for me to kill, so it's probably the best way to fight. Ideally, I will, draw a creature and then attack him at some point. I think this is a totally fine keep. But yes, it does lack from any form of clock. My deck is such that I don't necessarily even need a clock, though. I can also just draw cards and leave mana up and win a decent amount. There's not too much reason to Thoughtseize now, I don't think. And I don't really feel in a super hurry, so I'm actually gonna thin my deck of one more land with this fetch land before I bust a Horizon Canopy. This game isn't going very well. It's fairly likely that I lose, but what else? It'll be okay. Yeah, the reason that it's so hard for him to find creatures is that Peer Through Depths is such a huge part of his searching engine, and that finds either part of the shoal combo, but it cannot find creatures. And, like, I'm going very slow, sure, but at any point that I land a Knight of the Reliquary, I just win. He's leaving up Muddle, which is fine. I'm not gonna play Thoughtseize into that. Wowie. Okay. And he does have another Peer, which similarly cannot find one of his creatures. I mean, he can find a Muddle and Transmute, but it's very slow. He also already has a Muddle he could Transmute, so that didn't really get him too far. What he really needs to find is an Inkmoth Nexus. Although I've managed to see like 8, 11, coming up on half the land in my deck so far, I do not have a Ghost Quarter or Tectonic Edge, so Inkmoth Nexus is pretty solid here. Quite a bit easier for it to survive than the Blighted Agent. Alright, we have a clock, gain some life too, very relevant. Yeah, he doesn't play Ramon, so I can just play into the 2 untapped islands totally fine. This is why it's not the best just to take a list from Pro Tour, by the way, because I know the 60 cards in his deck list pretty well without doing anything. That's just free information for me. It makes it a lot harder for him to win the matchup. Sometimes people will take that a long way in the other direction and try to play rogue decks all the time where people don't know what you're doing, and there's some value to that. When you are playing a rogue deck, you know, you're getting some of that out of it. But sometimes they just play decks that can actually win games, and that is less exciting. So we do get the Tectonic Edge. I'm gonna hold it in hand until there's a reason not to. Like, I don't want him to hold back on transmuting Talaria West. Or decide to scry an Inkmoth to the bottom to try to get Blighted Agent or something, I don't know. I feel pretty good about my situation. He's missing a lot, by the way. But he's drawing to 7 outs, and I'm drawing to, what, any creature. After the game, we could try to do the math on how ludicrous it is that he hasn't found a creature yet. It's possible that he has found creatures too and is just holding them. He put 1 on top and is now going to discard, which is an interesting play. Discard a Blazing Shoal, no less. Peer Through Depths, end of turn. That still doesn't actually find you one of your creatures. I wonder if he's missing that he can just muddle for it. Like, sure, it gets killed, but it seems like the obvious way to start. Found a Spellskite. Okay, well that awkwardly actually holds me off. Still have one creature. I could path that. Gets muddled. Yeah, I guess at this point we have to start battling, unfortunately. I'll cast the Thoughtseize first since he knows I have it. We'll get muddled. Cast Inquisition next to get rid of any disrupting shoal. He's holding one. He's holding two. Okay, anyway. Get rid of that, hit him in the face. I don't really want to Bajuka Bog his graveyard in case I draw Tarmogoyf. Fairly unlikely to be relevant, but it's a small thing. I wonder whose deck is misfiring more. This is pretty stellar. I have one basic forest left after I... Really? You're not dead yet. I guess maybe he has to start chumping at that point. After I fetched with this Verdant Catacombs, I was going to grab Temple Garden and would have had one basic forest left for my fetch lands to fetch. We were a bit flooded there. So I bring in 4 copies of Aethersworn Canonist. It's a 2/2 creature, which means that they can't protect their combo, and that coupled with 4 copies of Path, those guys, and my 2 answers to Inkmoth plus Slaughter Pact, all these go together to give me a pretty good edge. Knight of Soul's Betrayal is, well, yeah, all of their creatures have 1 toughness, so it should be fairly obvious why that's good. We don't need the Planeswalkers here. Chalice of the Void, I sometimes toy with the idea of bringing that in. I quite often drop Tarmogoyf in the combo matchups just because I don't actually need to kill them quickly, and Goyf is just 2 mana that I'm not spending on disruption or anything like that. As far as swords, Feast and Famine is probably just barely playable. Sword of Body and Mind seems not great at all, and Gadok Teague of course has to come in. Let's make sure there's not anything great hanging out in here. Definitely not. And I don't think I have any blanks in the main deck. Well, the only thing is Mirroring Crusader. That's probably a little bit slower than Tarmogoyf. Game 1 took 14 minutes and I cast, what, 3 spells? This hand seems fine. It's not exciting at all, but I have Path, go for the Throat, Teague, and Knight of the Reliquary, and I think actually every single one of those cards has to be answered by him. Go for the Throat can't target Inkmoth Nexus. This is an important thing to realize. It can, however... Thinks probably should have come out, by the way. It can, however, also not target Spellskite. Speak the Devil. And so it's quite valuable because it kills their Blighted Agent. Guess I go Temple Garden, Godless Shrine. So I can roll T-Dot here, and then now that I've drawn Canonist, well, he has the kite, unfortunately. So I'm not quite fast enough to stop him next turn. Man, he's just not doing anything, apparently, which is an interesting decision. I don't see any reason not to go for Knight of the Reliquary here. It's already 4-4, so if he goes Red Source, Fire Spout, stays alive, and kills him quite quickly, which seems fine. What are we muddling for? At this point, I am not sure I can imagine losing the game. So it just sort of becomes a question of what the best way to win is. And with all that being considered, there is the possibility to just path his kite and get the clock as fast as possible. I would still want to hold back Knight of the Reliquary. So let's see, that'll get him 16. Knight goes to 5-5 plus another, puts 9 power on the board. That's probably a turn faster, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. There's not much reason to swing with the knight. He has snapback in hand, which is likely the only way he has to deal with Gadok Teague right now. And Knight of the Reliquary can, whenever he likes, fetch up Century Step to counter that snapback on resolution. Or before resolution? I don't know. We used to call it fizzling back in my day. And this is a pretty, this matchup is just a pretty good representation of what this deck does in the format. There are a lot of creature decks that can give you a lot of trouble, but when you're just up against this sort of combo deck, it's very hard for them to do much. He was trying to cast something there, and he cannot cast any more spells this turn. He just scoops it up. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and fetch Arena, and then I'm gonna swing for 9, I guess. I don't know. I don't think there's any way I can just win in 2 turns, but there are a gazillion ways to win in 3, and none of them seem like he has any outs against them. So, do something like that. I wonder if we could work out the combinatorics of drawing the 3-cut combo in this deck. It seems unlikely. They have so much card draw, and Peer Through Depths is weird, and there's Transmute. Take me a while, so I'm not going to try to do that. I will do a quick replay of the game, just to recap. I mean, it was not a terribly exciting game, but maybe there are a few things that are a little different. Fetching Temple Garden untapped turn 1 was not the best play. Like I said though, it's possible that on the play turn 1 Thoughtseizing is incorrect, because his Blighted Agent comes down on turn 2, and if I am deciding that I want to fight against Blighted Agent, then it's more likely that he'll have it on hand on my turn 2 on the play. That's an argument for actually skipping the turn 1 discard. Drew thinks on turn... what was that? Turn 5, and it just went the distance. Like, you can see that even if he does draw... well, if he draws Blighted Agent, I'm sort of screwed, but even if he draws an Inkmoth Nexus there, I have Tectonic Edge. Like, this deck has a little bit of trouble.